Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Narus. I am a research officer at the Faculty of Graduate Studies, and I'm joined by some of my colleagues from the Scholarships and Awards team who will help to monitor the Q&A session today. Frank?
Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to the session. I'm Frank. I am the scholarship coordinator at Faculty of Graduate Studies.
And today we're here to talk to you all about scholarships and award opportunities available to you as potential graduate students at York University. So we'll start by providing a brief overview of the York graduate community and the kinds of supports available to you as prospective York students. After that, we'll dive into the types of awards and financial supports available. And then we'll wrap things up with some tips on how to develop a strong application, which will be especially helpful if you do plan to apply for any awards during your studies. And of course, we'll also have time for your questions throughout and at the end. So just so you can get a sense of the environment that you'll be a part of, here's a quick snapshot of the York graduate community. So York has over 6,000 graduate students spread across both master's and doctoral programs, representing a wide range of disciplines. We have engineering, science, and health, fine arts, social sciences, and humanities. And we also have around 1,000 of our students who come from international backgrounds, which really adds a lot of diversity and new perspectives to the community. Our graduate students are incredibly talented, they're very driven, and they're not only conducting cutting-edge research, but a lot of their research really does have real-world impacts. And it's also worth noting as well that many of our grad students do receive prestigious scholarships and awards, which speaks to the high level of excellence here at York. So whether you're just starting your graduate journey or thinking about starting, or you're already deep into your research, you're in great company. So with that context in mind, let's move on and explore some of the different financial supports and awards available to help you succeed as grad students at York. As mentioned, there are several avenues for grad student funding at York. We have York graduate funding, which often comes in the form of fellowships or teaching assistant positions, and these can provide both financial support and valuable teaching experience. So depending on your program, graduate fellowships and TA-ships are often standard components of certain programs, and these would usually be outlined in your letter of admission. If you do have questions about whether you have a funded offer of admission or not, please reach out to the program directly. There are also entrance scholarships offered to students when they first begin their graduate studies, and these awards recognize academic excellence and help to ease the transition into grad school. Beyond that, you may also be eligible for merit-based scholarships, which are awarded based on achievements, as well as bursaries, which are available, and these are typically needs-based. One thing that is important to remember is that most of the funding opportunities are intended for full-time graduate students. So that's just something to keep in mind as you do explore the different funds and financial opportunities that are available. And this is why we encourage you to visit our scholarships and awards page, where you'll find more details about the different types of opportunities available to you. And on the screen, you'll see a screen grab of what our scholarship and awards page looks like. And it's broken down into those different funding types. But I'd like to draw your attention to the bottom right-hand side of the screen grab, where you can see it says award search. And this is just a very helpful tool that you can use to filter through the different types of scholarships and awards using different eligibility criteria. So you can filter by program, you can filter by keyword, and so on. As mentioned, entrance scholarships are designed to recognize academic excellence right from the start, and there are quite a few available at York, which we've listed here. Now, we don't have time to delve into these in too much detail, but some entrance awards include the York Graduate Scholarship, and this supports students entering both master's and doctoral programs. Doctoral students can also be considered for the prestigious ELIA Scholars Award, and this is one of the highest honors for incoming PhD students, and it's valued at $35,000 a year for up to 4 years. For those in the liberal arts, there's also the Chancellor Bennett Master's and Doctoral Scholarships, which aims to attract top talent to these fields. So these are worth up to $20,000 a year. And another competitive award is the Graduate Fellowship for Academic Distinction. And this is also available to both master's students for up to $16,000 a year and doctoral students, and that's valued up to $26,000 a year. Some programs do also offer their own program-based entrance scholarships, so it is worth looking into this if your department does provide additional support. Again, using that award search tool mentioned earlier is really helpful and a great way to search these up. The good news about entrance scholarships at York is that applicants are automatically considered for these. There is no need to submit a separate application. So generally speaking, some entrance awards are granted along with your offer of admission, while others would be awarded later on once admission decisions are final. Now, in terms of financial support for current students at York, we do have bursaries, like I mentioned, which are based on financial need. There are internal awards, which are funded by donors and are typically awarded based on merit. And some of these also do consider financial need as part of the criteria as well. York also offers support for academic activities through funds like the Academic Excellence Fund and other research support programs. And these can just help cover costs related to things like conference presentations, potential field work, or other research-related expenses. Another option are research assistantships, where students would receive a stipend for work that aligns with their research projects. And in addition to this internal funding, many students also benefit from external awards, and these are administered generally through the university, and they include major national and provincial scholarships, such as the Tri-Council scholarships for both master's and doctoral students, and the Ontario Graduate Scholarships, which provide funding at both the master's and doctoral levels as well. And there are also a lot of other external awards that students can apply for depending on their field of study. And these details can also be found on our scholarships and awards page as well. Now, the most prestigious externally funded awards are collectively known as the Tri-Council, which are federally funded scholarships. So the Tri-Council, also referred to as the Tri-Agencies, comprises of the CIHR, that's the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, NSERC, or the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, and SSHRC, the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. And they each offer master's level awards for which there's one shared application portal across all three agencies. They also offer doctoral level awards, and there are 3 separate application portals for each agency. Depending on your research focus, you would apply through the particular agency portal. To be eligible to apply to the Tri-Council Awards at either level, applicants must be domestic students registered in full-time research-based programs. So to determine which agency you should be applying to, if you are interested or looking to apply to these scholarships, you'll want to carefully review the subject matter eligibility for each of the agencies, and a link is provided on the slide here. So the Tri-Agency Awards for Master students is called the CGSM for shorthand, or the Canada Graduate Scholarship Masters, and these are now valued at $27,000 a year for up to 3 terms. So it would cover a 1-year program. The deadline to apply for master's students is usually December 1st every year. So for any master's students here or potential master's students who might be interested, I encourage you to familiarize yourselves with the criteria to see if you're eligible to apply for future competition cycles. And when applying for the CGSM, your application will be evaluated based on 3 key criteria. So the first is academic excellence, and this counts for 50% of the evaluation. And this includes things like your academic record, scholarships, and awards that you've held. Next is research potential, which counts for 30% of the evaluation. And here, reviewers are looking at the quality and the originality of your research contributions, as well as the significance, feasibility, and merit of your proposed research. And then finally, personal characteristics and interpersonal skills make up the remaining 20% of the evaluation. And here, reviewers are looking at your work and leadership experiences, as well as any involvement that you've had in academic life and volunteer activities as well. Now, at the doctoral level, we have the SSHRC doctoral scholarships for those in the social sciences and humanities, and this is valued at $40,000 a year for up to 3 years. The deadline for submitting the SSHRC doctoral application is generally in October every year. And when applications are submitted, they first go through an internal adjudication process and review at the institutional level at York, and then top-ranked files are then forwarded to SSHRC in Ottawa for the final decision, with results announced in the spring. The NSERC doctoral scholarships are also available for PhD students who are studying the natural sciences and engineering. Similar to SSHRC, these awards are also valued at $40,000 a year for up to 3 years, and the application deadline is very similar. It's in early October. These are finalized later in the summer and early in the fall, so notices will be shared with students once those dates are known. And these applications also go through that same internal adjudication process at York before the top-ranked files are forwarded to the agency for final decision-making, with results announced the following spring. And finally, for doctoral students who are conducting health research, we recommend that you consider familiarizing yourself with the CIHR doctoral scholarships. So similar to the other Tri-Council doctoral awards, this is also valued at $40,000 a year for up to 3 years, again, for domestic full-time doctoral students in research-based programs. The deadline, similar to the others, is set in early October every year to allow applications to go through that institutional review process at York before being forwarded to the national competition for consideration. And as with SSHRC and NSERC, internal results for CIHR will be announced in late November. And then final funding decisions from the national competition would be announced in April. So if you are successful at the national level for any of the Tri-Council doctoral awards, the earliest you could start your award would be May. Now, for the doctoral competitions, the selection criteria are the same across all 3 agencies, and they equally weigh applicants according to their research ability and potential. So these are things like the quality of your research proposal or any relevant training and experience that you might have. And then they also look at the relevant experiences and achievements obtained within and beyond academia. So looking at scholarships and awards you've held in the past, your academic record and transcript, and so on. So these criteria are both what the internal faculty members at York use when they're reviewing student applications, and it's also the same criteria that the agencies use at the national level to review candidates across Canada. So you're encouraged to familiarize yourself with the more comprehensive list of these evaluation criteria that's also linked on the bottom of the slide here. So another avenue for funding is the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, or OGS, and the Queen Elizabeth II, or QE2 scholarships that are open to both master's and PhD students. And these are merit-based scholarships that are jointly funded by the province of Ontario and the school that's offering the award. So for both awards, the value and the duration are the same. If successful, you'd be awarded $15,000 for 1 year, and this is a non-renewable award, meaning that you would have to reapply each year that you're eligible. And you must hold the award for at least 2 consecutive terms of your graduate degree, or for up to 3 terms total if successful. So for OGS, both domestic and international students from any program and discipline can apply. For the QE2, only domestic students in the sciences, technology, and engineering programs are eligible. And the application is adjudicated together at the institutional level. So at York, OGS applicants in science, technology, and engineering who are eligible would be submitting the same application. And if they're eligible to hold a QE2, then they would automatically be considered for it. Now, when applying to these different graduate scholarships, you'll typically have to include official transcripts from all of your undergraduate and graduate schools attended as part of your application package. So if you're applying through York, for any of these scholarships that we've talked about, your York U transcript should also be included, and they would need to show your fall 2025 registration or term, even if you don't have any grades for that semester. And you could order your transcripts from the registrar's office, and we always urge students to order them as early as possible if you are planning to apply to any of these scholarships. And this is just to account for any processing times and the fact that many other applicants will be requesting and ordering transcripts at the same time. So you just want to make sure that you're accounting for potential delays that might occur. Now, many of these scholarships that we talked about today require students to submit an application package, and this will include different documents depending on the award that's being applied to. So in the next few slides, I'll give a little bit of an overview on what it takes to develop one of these successful scholarship applications And for the purpose of this presentation, the tips here are very general and will vary again across disciplines. So when it is time for you to put together your own scholarship application, we just advise that you take and leave tips which you feel would be most applicable to your particular field of study and your particular application. So the first of our primary suggestions is to start planning and developing your applications early. So we notice that it does often take a lot longer than anticipated to put together a strong and complete package. So just remember to give yourself a lot of time. As prospective students, there's plenty of time for you to think about or strategize your planning and writing timelines so that you're able to put together a strong file for your applications in the fall. So typically, a scholarship application will require a research statement, a bibliography, 2 to 3 reference letters from faculty members or people you know well, your official transcripts, and a copy of your CV. So in any given school year during your grad studies, you'll likely be applying to different scholarships simultaneously. And you want to keep in mind that the format in which you submit these applications can really vary across the different types of scholarships. So for example, with reference letters, sometimes you have to collect the letters from your referees directly and then attach it to your application. But other times the application has software where you can invite your referee to submit the letter directly onto your application via the portal. And then all you have to do is enter their contact information, their email address, and the portal will then send them an automatic email invitation with the link to submit their letters. So we just advise that you be mindful of the correct processes for each of the applications that you're submitting. And again, if you start your application early and ahead of time, you'll be able to deal with any kind of last minute hiccups that might occur along the way. In terms of writing your research proposal or preparing your research statements, you want to ensure that you're describing your project in a manner that's clear, engaging, and intelligible. So when you submit these applications, what happens is that all of the applications submitted are reviewed by a university-wide team who will score and rank your applications against every other applicant that submitted in that competition for that year. So because you're going to be writing these applications for a wide audience, and because the committees who will be reviewing and ranking your applications are multidisciplinary from different fields of studies, you generally want to avoid jargon in your research proposal and also clearly state the impact of your research project. So you want to clearly articulate the significance of your research and its findings, and ultimately what difference it's going to make to society or just the importance of your research in a broader context. So you want to think about the bigger picture of your potential results and findings, and you also want to communicate this in your research proposal itself. So your application should essentially advocate for your research project and saying that it's not only impactful, but that it should also be funded. So just to delve a little bit deeper into the research statement itself, a well-organized research statement typically includes the research question that you're trying to tackle, along with any important literature or seminal pieces of work in your field to provide the context for your project. So remember that you want to couch your project within the existing body of work or research, and then underscore why it's important or original or different. You'll also want to mention the research methods that you plan to undertake, and this should be written in a way that shows reviewers that your project is feasible, that it's realistic, and that it's achievable during the timeline of your studies. And finally, you'll also want to describe the impact of your study, essentially why your project is important to pursue. So basically, after you've written your research proposal, it should address the what, the where, the why, the how, and the so what of your project. And writing these scholarship applications and showcasing your research and plans in such a limited space is a skill. Again, a lot of these research statements have limits. Sometimes it's only 2 pages, sometimes it's only 1 page maximum. And so the more you write and the more you rewrite and engage with the scholarship writing process, the better your skills will become and the stronger your application will be. Now, one of the questions that we get most often from students is, well, what if my plans change? Like, I'm not sure what I'm going to be writing about. I don't know exactly where I want to take my research. What if it changes? Does this matter? If your research project changes by the time you receive the award, don't worry, because most of these scholarship agencies and funders do understand and even expect that your plan is going to evolve as you continue your degree. So at the time of your application, When you are preparing your documents and getting ready to submit, just present your research proposal as a snapshot of your current plan as clearly as possible. And lastly, I do want to mention some final tips about letters of reference, which again are really important. So for your scholarship applications, like I mentioned, you'll typically need letters from your referees. And this shows reviewers that you have other people who support you and believe in you and your work. So we strongly recommend that you contact prospective referees early to give them enough time to work on the letters of support for you. Also note that they are not going to automatically receive a copy of your application, so remember to give them a draft of your research proposal and any other relevant application documents such as your CV, just so that they have an idea of what your research is about and so that they can speak to your skills as an adept researcher. When reaching out to your referees, you can definitely ask them to highlight how your features will fit into the criteria that's outlined in the evaluation of the award. So I would recommend even providing them with the link to the awards and selection criteria, just to make sure that they're well prepared to address them in their letters. And one of the reasons why we advise students to reach out early to referees is because without the required reference letters, you will not be able to submit your full scholarship application if they haven't submitted their completed letters of reference. Especially when you are submitting via a portal, as is the case for the Tri-Council. If your reference letters are not there, you will not be able to submit and you will not be considered. So just be sure to give enough time to your referees to actually complete these letters. And so one thing that we do recommend is to give them a deadline earlier than your own scholarship deadline, just so that you can ensure that the application is submitted on time. And to that end, the Faculty of Graduate Studies has prepared a helpful guide for referees on how to put together a strong letter of support. So please feel free to also take a look and share this with your referees when you are reaching out to them. And finally, we'll end the session with a list of resources. Here you'll find some links that you might find useful as you're developing your research statements for your scholarship applications. And it'll just give you a little bit more detailed information on how to write up a strong proposal. There's also a video here from one of the major government agencies, which funds research in the sciences and engineering fields, NSERC, like we mentioned. And here they talk about different tips that you can use to make sure that your particular scholarship application stands out. And if you have any specific questions about these scholarship applications, or if you think of a question about this presentation later on, you can reach out to our team. Frank, Ricolette, and I work together to facilitate external award applications, and we're able to help during the application process wherever we can. Your graduate program that you hope to attend or are attending is also a really great resource to you, and they're usually your first point of contact for assistance. So they'll be able to answer any kind of specific questions that pertain to your discipline. With that, I do thank you for joining us today to learn about scholarships and awards at York. And now we'll take some questions if you have any.